It's Westminster. Scotland doesn't have any say in this, you know. So there's another argument for us to have our independence. And I know that's not what we're here about tonight, but it's something to bear in mind. Westminster have control over benefits, not us. But having said that, the Scottish Government does have some power that they could be using. As Richie has indicated, there are things they could be doing, and a couple of councils have already started to do it. And that's what we can make our council do. So please join us in this protest next week. Spread the word, tell as many people as you can. Look out for us in the street. Come and say hello. Give us your addresses, telephone number, your email addresses, and we promise we will keep in touch with you and let you know what's going on. But before I finish, I just want to thank everybody again for coming tonight, and you'll now have an opportunity to ask us some questions, let off a wee bit of steam, and hopefully we'll get more names tonight and maybe some decisions about what you would like to see us doing next. Thank you. Yes. That's your home, that's your children's home. They're considering it a spare room, but we all know that that's your home. You know, they're all at home. Come October, they're going to do this, you'll get your benefit all in a winner. And I believe that in some cases they will dock your benefit before you get it in order to cover any arrears. I believe they are going to do that.
The thing you're talking about, what's your name, sorry? Brian. Brian, the thing they're talking about, or you're referring to, I should say, is the universal credit, which is to replace all forms of benefit. That's meant to come in October, but it's not. It's actually been delayed as a minimum to next January, more likely to October 2014, because it's in chaos. But that's the system where they give you the lump sum, and the plan is it'll be once a month, and that it includes everything, including your housing benefit, as well as your job seekers allowance or disability living allowance. All those are replaced by this one thing, and it's designed to cut benefits. It's not a gift, but it also causes the added problem where to manage that amount of money, which is not much per week, there's a hell of a lot in one go. And then you've been living the last week and a half of the month with nothing, and you then get this lump sum. It doesn't take a genius to work out that it'll be a nightmare for people to manage that money. And on the thing about your family situation, that is a cruel example of exactly what Bedroom Tax is about, because as a separated parent, the primary care, or whatever you'd like to call it, the person with the main custody, they're allowed, depending on the age of the kids and so on, they're allowed either 1 or 2 bedrooms for a couple of kids, like I described earlier. But if you're the other parent, but you've got all those arrangements, amicable or whatever it might be with your ex-partner, they make no allowance whatsoever for that. And by the way, that bastard, Lord Freud, was on the radio, and somebody asked him this very question. Somebody from Inverness, I think it was. Asked him, how am I supposed to have my 2 children staying in the house if you're not allowing me to have the bedroom for them? And he says they can use the likes of a fold-down sofa. And this is the character of 11 spare bedrooms. So they make no allowance for your situation. But having said that, like I mentioned earlier, challenge it every step of the way. At least try to clog it up as best you can with the help of professionals, you know, like welfare rights officers.
I've also been told
every 4 weeks, and they're expecting me to pay £50. There must be a bedroom every week, every 4 weeks.
By the way, I should have also mentioned, this is good news for anybody in the situation. The universal credit, if I'm not wrong on this, I think I'm right. The universal credit, whenever it does actually come in, because it's delayed, like I said, it'll be staged. It'll be gradually brought in. For example, it doesn't immediately impact on the people who are already claiming those benefits. But if you change your circumstance, that's what triggers it, the change of circumstance. If, for example, you were to get a job for a couple of weeks, or something like that, then when you claimed again, you would become covered by the universal credit whenever that comes in. But it's staged, it's staggered. There's even rumours going around that they're going to do it region by region, that kind of thing, because there's in such chaos. So it's not an immediate measure. It's not even as immediate as it was planned for this October. So that's some small comfort that people are covered by it.
There's no starting until April.
No. Some people are confusing the two things. The bedroom tax starts then. And what happens with the bedroom tax is that they reduce the amount of housing benefit you get. Strictly, it's not a tax, but everybody's nicknamed it that. It's a cut in your housing benefit. So if, for example, you were being given £100 at the minute a week for covering your rent, and they decide you've got too many rooms like they would for you, then 14% of that, 14 quid in that example, would be taken away from you. So to fill that gap, you'd be expected out of your other benefit, like sickness benefit of some form or whatever, you'd be expected to get that 14 quid and pay it to the landlord. That's what the bedroom tax is.
She was trying to get me to move somebody, I'm a total stranger as well, into the spare room. Somebody that I didn't know has to get £30 off them. You need £30 and still pay for the room as well.
Well,
she wanted me to pay for that for the start of February. You knew start paying that on Monday. So it's not even starting yet.
either said people should take out lodgers for the solutions.
You can lodge if you like.
That would come off your benefit if you were renting.
You can't,
I've also
sir.
been told,
No, it's alright.
I've also been told that one possible loophole where there's children living in 2 different households, the money will go to the parent or the guardian that gets the child benefit component. So some parents, if they get along, may decide to split. So one parent will get the benefit for one child, another parent will get the benefit for the other child, and that way they can both maintain a bedroom. But obviously it means a drop of income for one parent, and it's not every separated parent will get on together, so that could be fraught emotionally as well.
Behave yourself.
Thank you very much.
He said it's alright if they're talking to each other.
Sorry, I didn't
Go on, say what you say.
That's alright if they're talking to each other. Instead of flooding, have their fight.
Oh, Richie, the guy you were talking,
Somebody told him, sorry.
the guy you were talking about, Lord Freud, he spoke to. He's part of. He started up a group on Facebook. It's got over 11,000 members. It's got a lot of good information, good advice and that on it. It's called Bedroom Tax. Think it's unfair. Join the fight here. So if any of you have got Facebook, I would urge you to go on that because it's really good. If I could add to your exemptions, no every foster carer and no every military personnel, severely disabled children, not every single one of them are exempt. It's up to the local housing associations, councils to see which child is severely disabled. Is this another Atos?
Yeah.
Military personnel, if it's a single military man, he comes out, he's on his leave, goes into a council house, he's not exempt. Foster carers, if they've not fostered within the past year, 12 months, they're not exempt, and they're not exempt for their own child. So just to add that.
Yeah.
You know, Richard was talking about the economic, darkness of this whole thing. Right. I mean, I live up the road from my sister. She looks after me when I'm not well. If I have to move out because of the bedroom tax, I'm going to have to move to a place where she can't look after me, and it'll cost the state more. That's just absolute lunacy.
So you've got to move it, you're downsizing to one bedroom, I'm still down, I can move it if you're not sleeping.
And you're losing all your support system, you know.
Well, I think this is one of the things, like I said, these are our homes. You know, I've been living in my home now for 31 years. I brought up 3 children. I've got a grandchild now. I've got elderly neighbours who, although not dependent on me, I keep a wee eye on them, make sure that they're going to be alright. There's young families round about, we help each other out, keeping an eye on the kids for an hour here and there, while people do shopping. You know, it's not a house, it's not a bedroom, it's a home, it's a community, it's a feeling you have for the people that you're with. You know, and they bulldozed communities 30, 40 years ago. And if there's anyone here that was born and brought up in Irvine, then you'll know the kind of animosity people in Irvine felt towards Glasgow over spill. And I know there's a lot of people from Glasgow here who've now been settled here 30 years. It takes a long time to build up a sense of community and a sense of belonging and a sense of connectedness to the people that you live round about. That's another thing that they're going to destroy. You know?
They destroyed the community east end of Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games. The whole end of Kinnair Road, Budden Street, Springfield Road, all the way down to Kilmarnock. They took it out of commission. But for games to last how long?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Somebody there 40, 50 years, they're out the game. What was that hall they demolished?
What was what, sorry?
The hall. You made a remark on it. I don't know the name. You made the remark on it. You don't remember it?
One of the Shettleston halls.
Aye. They're not getting it back again, but there you go.
The elderly care.
They're demolishing that Carney Road, great style. How many houses are they building?
The Accord Centre for
That's it.
severely
Aye.
disabled
Made it a car park.
adults for a car park.
Aye, for a car park.
Do you know that Ian Duncan Smith is coming to Scotland on the 27th?
Is it? That's handy.
He's meant to be, that's if he still does it, up in Edinburgh.
Ah, he's
So if
big.
anybody wants to protest, 27th of March up in Edinburgh.
Yes.
You stand anything, I will get one of the
Sorry?
You stand anything, I'll get one of those.
Depends on people like yourselves. Some of us are doing a lot about it, but we need more people. Because one of the things that defeated the likes of the poll tax, which at first, I mean, I lived in Liverpool then, at the time of the poll tax, and was one of the central organisers of the anti-poll tax unions all across the northwest of England. And we had meetings, which was about a quarter the size of this initially, in local areas, but it grew into a force that brought down not just the poll tax but Thatcher. It grew into 18 million people refusing to pay the poll tax. Now it's more straightforward, the poll tax, than the bedroom tax. That's one of our problems with this one, because there's not as many people directly affected by it. You know, it's, like I said, 2/3 of a million across Britain. But there's nevertheless large numbers directly affected. There's others, if they hear the case, how they're going to be indirectly affected by loss of services, loss of jobs. Like I've said already, housing associations and councils cutting back even now before in anticipation. And the recession is an opportunity as well as a problem for employers. It's an opportunity to do in workers' rights. Because on the 1st of April, alongside the bedroom tax and the tax cuts for the millionaires, there's another thing happening, which is to do with workplace rights, where it's been drastically hammered. Where, for example, if you've not been in a job for 2 years, you won't have the same cover when it comes to trying to do things like take a case to an employment tribunal. I've got a lad who I recruited to the union at work, a Polish lad, a cleaner, and he's been sacked yesterday by his employer, which is a contractor in our place. And the problem I've got in defending him is he's only been in the job for 7 months, without blemish. And he made the mistake of, I shouldn't go into details, but basically he made the mistake of his trousers zip broke, and to avoid embarrassment he went into the nearest changing area, and it turned out to be a women only area. Well, there's nobody in it, and he's been sacked for that. Absolutely brutal, by one of these gangster cleaning companies, which is a big one. I won't name them because they've got operations down here, they come back at me, but we'll be seeing them, don't worry. But the problem is you don't have the same weapons to defend somebody like that, because you've not been in the job long enough. We believe as a party it should be from day one you're fully covered by employment rights. But that's another thing that's been brought in from the 1st of April, to hammer workers' rights, to get more and more wealth out of the hands of people's wage packet into the hands of the millionaires. Wages as a share of national wealth are at their lowest in 50 years. At their lowest. It's not a surprise that to you, I'm sure, but that's a fact, a statistic. So they're grinding us down to get more and more for the fewer and fewer. So what we need to do is get more and more people to rear up against that and join together. So will anything be done on the bedroom tax? Well, there's a protest next Tuesday. It might not change the world, but it could possibly help to change the decision of North Ayrshire Council from the meeting. So let's look at it that way, small steps. As somebody who I don't actually follow in general, Chairman Mao once said, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So let's take the first few at least.
Yes.
Denise, when Richie mentioned there about if you're being affected by this, to issue an appeal, there's quite a lot of information online about how to do that. It should be pretty standard for the whole country, I think, and it gives example draft letters that you can just copy and paste, you know, to say wrestling with all the legalese behind it, and they're very smartly worded and quite concise, you know. But that's obviously for people that are affected by it. For folk that aren't affected by it, but are stunted by it and want to do something about it, there's an excellent facility online called They Work For You. Just remember that, They Work For You is one word. Put it in the search engine, it comes up. And all you do is you put in your postcode, and you know what it's like, your postcode is, it's like Pandora's box with everything. They'll give you your MP, your MSP, your MEP, all your councillors, every representative will come up there, and there's wee comment boxes and you can get in touch with them like that. So, otherwise if you're doing normal letters, it costs you, was it 50, 60 pence for a stamp, you know. This way you can do it online, it costs you scalps.
See, I would urge you to hound Ryan Donoghue as well, because I've been emailing him every day near enough, and I think he's getting a wee bit sick of me now. But he doesn't seem to be doing anything. He tells me he's against it, but he doesn't seem to be doing anything, so hound him.
Funny enough, I don't want to jump in too much, but there's an opportunity to do that, which you might or might not know about, Alex, but on Friday night, Donoghue's having a meeting on the bedroom tax in Nelson Mandela Cottage, which is not in Robben Island. That's his joke. But it's that's his joke. But it's in the centre of town. So I think it's at 6:30 from memory. But if people want to go there, not to fill out his numbers, but to actually go
speak to him,
chain him, so to speak, about the issue. And I think, I mean, I totally support what Ian has said about using things like that online facility to get directly to people elected as politicians. But there's absolutely no substitute for seeing them in the flesh, or to put another, them seeing you in the flesh, and the hot breath of opposition coming.
they're there for us, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yes.
My girlfriend has got a 3-apartment, right? She's been there in the 4-apartment. Stayed at Sanderson Avenue was 7 years ago, she decided to walk it, right? So it's almost about 6 months we put her in 4-apartment, which is Scott Road. That was my whole choice, right? I've got my own house, I've got a bed, so I don't need to buy it, but I don't agree with it, right? So she's only on another £31 a fortnight, and the 2 rooms, house, tenants support have been out and try to come for a downsize for it, but they're saying to you, pay it, and this company, whatever it's called, I can't remember, once you're up and running, you pay it, they'll pay it back. But if you start paying that, then what's the chances you're going to get it back? Is that the case of you saying that? But do you know what I mean? So,
I mean, they're shifting the goalposts, aren't they? You know, they offer you a house and they say this is the house we're offering you. You take the house and then they say, oh, we're penalising you.
Peter didn't say to them, all right, you move to a one bedroom anywhere in this area. She would go in and Crumb. She never chose that house for herself. They put her in that house.
I think there may be lawyers round about, and perhaps Richard can say maybe a wee bit, you might know more about it. The Govan Law Centre, I think perhaps this is one of the things that maybe they're looking at.
They're looking at it.
My house. You know what I mean? That's basically about the vanity, isn't it?
I think on an example like that, the problem is that there's no guarantees of success on a legal front, but it's an example of what you should try to challenge. You know, there's people here who work in that kind of field as a job. Yeah. Yeah. No, well, I mean, I think everybody should be encouraged to challenge the call for them to go to a smaller house or to be charged the bedroom tax. There's people we've met in the streets when we're campaigning who have said, I've just moved. Now, I can entirely understand that, but I wouldn't encourage it. Because why should people have to uproot themselves, particularly if they've been there for quite a while and something changes in circumstances, or in cases like yours, or your girlfriend's, the only offer they had was a 3-bedroom and they didn't want it. I mean, I was in that position in the past when the only available house when I was moving was too big, so-called, but I took it because I needed somewhere. So I think you should challenge that kind of thing, and we're trying to see if there's any local lawyers that would, on a no-fee basis, assist people, but as a basic step, get a welfare rights officer, okay, to help them go through the...
I never choose that house.
Yeah.
There's families who scheme for houses like that.
That's right.
I've said that for 10 years.
The other thing, by the way, the general point about this is that I think you could also nickname this the single end tax. Because why should people have to live in a 1-bedroom house if for whatever reasons they want a spare bedroom? I mean, maybe for God knows how many reasons. It might not mean that but they're trying to drive people, or some of the population, back into overcrowding. And by the way, already, overcrowding has doubled in the past 10 years in Scotland. Overcrowded housing, that's according to Shelter, the housing charity. So overcrowding is a horrible problem already. But are they solving that by offering people rebates because they're in overcrowded houses? I don't think so. It's bunkum. It's a complete bogus argument that they put up. But challenge it on the grounds that she never asked for a 3-bedroom.
It's not about freeing up.
Yes, gentlemen, back.
Charging that garbage. I mean, I've got a son who lives with mother now, just like a chap here. Okay, he doesn't come to see me just now, but it might change next week. And they want me to take it as a single bedroom house. How can they justify that? I think it's bloody diabolical crap.
Their justifications are pathetic. I mean, they are pathetic. They only give 3. They say it's to try and get under-occupied houses vacated so as they can get families who are in over-occupied houses in. Get them into these. So that's one of the reasons they give. Secondly, they want to cut the bill itself, you know, the cost of housing benefit. And as we pointed out, that's a nonsense, because even trying to evict somebody costs thousands and thousands and thousands, and then they're going to have to rehouse them in a house which is more than likely the same size, perhaps even bigger, in the private sector, so they're going to have to pay even more to either go and get more work, ha ha ha, or some work, ha 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 ha. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I work 40 hours. Come down we supply stuff to shops. We're quiet at the moment. But come Halloween time, my work's a lot. I'm down in all wage. Now they've just increased my rent. They're going to increase council tax and everything else. I mean, how can they do it? I mean, something needs to be done some way. And I'll be next to protests.
Good, because it's only us that can stop it. We can only make them stop. They're not going to stop. Anybody else?
Yeah. The bedroom tax at the moment doesn't deter me because I'm a pensioner, right? But I was, for 13 or 14 years, I was in incapacity benefit. Now, the government said that incapacity benefit was a working living wage, that you required that amount to live in. Why is everything going up and then they can turn around and take that off for the people that's in incapacity? It's a disgrace.
Aye.
Sarah.
Well done, mate. You've done well.
Especially you every time you're on the day to us. Not to the ear. But I didn't know what you said there about the monkey that held the assessment wasn't a doctor. I didn't know that. I know the guy was a doctor. That was 2 years or 3 weeks ago. Now my problem is, I've got a job by the way. And I'm made to feel like a scrounger in the last 6 to 9 months. I worked all my life. I'm a lorry driver. And I went sick 9 months ago. And obviously I haven't worked since. But I've been doing there, I've been told to go to an assessment. My doctor says I'm not fit to work. The social says I'm because they're trying to say, right, I'm not going to wage. So they sent me doing this assessment guy. Now, I've got a lung problem. And the questions lines are asked. I'm not going to get into detail here, but it's a farce. And this guy that says to me, I'm not fit to work. Now, I'm not fit to work because there's a safety issue involved, and it's a long problem. And I'm a lorry driver. And there's a serious issue. The reason I say I'm fit to work. Now, the questions that I had when I was in there, I mean, this guy didn't even know the job. He never asked me what type of work I'm in. He never asked me what environment I worked in. But he wanted to get up and do the dishes and this. You know what I mean? Can you do the dishes? Can you make a bed? Can you hoover the flare? Can you walk up steps? And I says, well, I said, I don't do steps, because I live in high flats. Oh, he says, there must be steps in high flats. I said, there's no flats, there's no steps. I said, what can I put on the job list? And I got, he says, try to catch me easy. I said, it's alright. He says, the list must get up at some time. Pal, he says, what? I says, no, I said, I just says, I don't know. So I mean, so, you must have a wee bit there because, I don't make the bed because the wife makes the bed. When I make the bed, she just rips it bits and make it again because that's not there, right? It's one of the things you say up. But he says, I've come back to work anyway, so. When I'm doing there, he's shouting me, I was in the waiting room, and he shouts me up. He was there in the waiting room, I follows the guy up the corridor. He holds the door open for me again to the wee room there again, question and all that. Then he asked me if I need walking sticks. He said, do you need walking sticks to walk? No. No, I said, no yet, but I said, well, I might do at some point, you know what I mean? But this is just the whole thing. And they make me feel like a scrounger, you know what I mean? Like, I'm on the brew, I'm a scrounger, I've never worked, get off it, get back to work. No interest in the set-up, no interest in what's right, no interest in that, just get off it, get back to work. And I was interested to hear what you said, the guy's doing this whole time. I didn't know that. And it really pissed me off. The fight's no bad yet. Oh, I didn't know that.
Even America get rid of them, didn't they? Aye.
Anybody else? Yeah. And then they'll take it off you. threaten tens of thousands of people paying exactly the same taxes. That's what makes it so insane.
How much the law says you need to live on, then you cut it down, so
Aye, they've got a loophole with that, but mate. Aye, but that's it, they've got a loophole. They're saying that they're going to give you that amount of money anyway, and it's up to you whatever you spend that money on.
Okay, thanks people. I think we're going to try and bring this to a end now. Rich is going to have another...
Aye, they want their money.
Sorry.
Aye,
we're going to draw this to an end now. Rich will have another 2 or 3 things to say. Can I remind you that we will have a wee collection. We will be selling the Scottish Socialist Voice. We say this is dedicated to the bedroom tax, so there's a lot of really good information in there. Can I remind you too about the demo next Tuesday at 1 o'clock at Cunningham House, and the demo next a week on Saturday up in Glasgow on the 30th. Okay, thank you.
Well, brothers and sisters, just to draw a kind of conclusion to the meeting from my viewpoint, I think it's been great that so many people have turned out in horrible weather to a local hall as one of a whole series of meetings that we and other people have been organising. And I think that that's the beginnings of the resistance movement that we have to build. But it does come down to yourselves to be organised, to resist, to try and defeat this pernicious tax. And like I said earlier, it's the small steps that will help to do that. Making sure all of you have given your details for contact on that contact sheet that's come around, so we can be in touch with each other about things. Long-term planning, that means also being prepared to resist the threat of evictions of somebody's house in the future. Spread the word. Talk to others what you've learned tonight. And for example, in the very short term, try to, I know some people would be working at the time, but if you're not, or even if you're working somewhere nearby and it coincides with some of your lunch break, come to the demonstration at the council cabinet meeting next Tuesday 1 o'clock opposite Asda at Cunningham House to show the council leadership the strength of feeling that exists on this issue, and at least try to press them to give that commitment that there be no evictions in North Ayrshire. Because if that's done on the backs of Dundee doing it the other night and the ones I mentioned in England, it'll begin to snowball perhaps and give courage to those without a spine in some of the council leaderships to do the same. And like I said, in West Dumbarton the following week we'll be having a protest in support of the SSP councillors' motion along those lines as well. So do those steps, take those small steps, as well as trying to challenge everything that's been thrown at you through the appeal system with the help of professional advice from the likes of welfare rights officers. I'd encourage you to do all those kinds of things. But I would also make the point that if we're going to remove the need for constantly having to battle to hold on to what we've got, which isn't much, if we're going to have to fight every year to hold on to the wages that a workforce has, which is why the civil servants are striking tomorrow for one of the reasons. If we're going to have to fight all the time to try and protect the miserly benefits and pensions that people get in this rich country, that's rich for some and impoverished for the mass of the population, if we're going to have to do that all the time, it's a bit like being a hamster on the wheel, constantly running to stand still. And it's not acceptable, because the country is potentially incredibly rich and plentiful for all of us. When you look at the natural wealth in the form of energy, the wave power, the wind power, the oil and gas, the land that can produce so much for everybody and beyond, the fact that we've got industry, we've got fabulous wealth in the form of finance in the city of Edinburgh, especially in the financial institutions. We've got millionaires in this country. It's not that far away from here. You've got millionaires living, and yet you've got millions living in abject poverty. It's morally objectionable, it's economically unnecessary, and politically it has to be challenged. And the Scottish Socialist Party is prepared to do that. So come together, certainly as a first step in fighting this bedroom tax. But if you want to go beyond that, consider joining the SSP, because, for example, not all of you would agree with our policy on Scotland and independence, but that won't stop us uniting with you on the bedroom tax. But we believe, as Denise said earlier on, that this illustrates the need for a government with full powers in Scotland. Because I actually believe that the Scottish population is such that they wouldn't tolerate a government that was introducing something called the bedroom tax or its like. And the voting patterns are there to prove that. Now, we've been sold a pup by those parties that have had the loyalty of the working class for about a century in the form of Labour. Absolutely sold down the river, as far as I'm concerned. There's good individuals in the Labour Party, but as a party, it's the new Tory party. And I think that's an added reason why you should consider joining the SSP, because we believe in independence. But that's in some ways where we part company with the SNP. Because the SNP is funded by people like Brian Souter, multi-millionaire, one of the richest people in Scotland, him and his sister Anne Globe. And how did they get their wealth? Through the privatisation of transport systems, amongst other things. The ripping off of the buses and trains for private profit. That's where they got it. That and low wages, actually, for the workforce. So we have a difference of approach entirely from the SNP, who believe, for example, that the future of Scotland, apart from being independent, should be one where they rattle the begging bowl under the noses of the multinationals and tell them, come in and invest, please, Mr. Multinational, because we will offer you cheap taxation on big business. At the minute, corporation tax on big business, I'm not talking about corner shops and one-person businesses, big business corporation tax is the lowest of any country in the Western world apart from the south of Ireland. So what does the SNP say? They want it to be the same level as the south of Ireland. They want power over corporation tax to cut it in half. We want corporation tax under the control of the Scottish Government so we can double it and bring it back to the level it was in the early 1980s before Thatcher and then New Labour got their hands on it. That's an example of the difference. The Scottish Socialist Party wants an independent, but a socialist Scotland, where the wealth is used not for the millionaires, but for the millions, where it's used for the people and not for profit, where it's brought together collectively and used to increase benefits, increase wages, increase services, bring in, we actually believe, I'm not going to go into detail, in a free public transport system. That's what we think should be introduced, which would cut poverty, cut pollution and increase jobs, because you'd have a vast expansion of the transport sector and would cut down the pollution and the dependence on cars in most parts of the country. So think about joining the Scottish Socialist Party for those broader reasons, but in the very immediate terms, regardless of whether you're willing to do that, join the demonstration on Tuesday and send a clear message to the councillors. Hands off our income, hands off our benefits, say no to evictions and help to scrap this vicious Tory bedroom tax. Unite and we can defeat it. Thanks a lot.